Counted the items on a privacy checklist somebody sent me last month. 41 of them, numbered, each one perfectly sensible on its own. Then I asked how many they had actually done. 4, and 2 of those were things the phone had done by itself in an update. That is the normal outcome, and the list is what causes it. 41 numbered items works out as a way of feeling inadequate in an organized fashion, which nobody sits down and volunteers for twice. So this is the short version. 5 settings, 10 minutes, and the order matters more than the list does. Where I am watching this from, I run mobile data lines for a living. SIM cards sitting in modems, rented out by the month, and a fair number of the businesses renting them are doing commercial data work with them. So I have watched what an app hands over from the other side of the wire. That is the only reason I have an opinion about which of these toggles break something real and which ones just make a settings menu look tidier. The order is the point. One thing I am not going to redo here. Deciding what you actually care about is its own exercise. 4 questions on one page, and I have written that up properly elsewhere. This piece assumes you skip that step, like almost everybody does, and just want to know what to press. What makes this list different from the other one is the sorting. These are ranked by how much each one buys you, and the drop from the first to the fifth is steep. If you stop after 3, you have most of it. 1. The advertising identifier, number 1, and it is not close. Your phone carries an advertising identifier, a string of characters that every app on the device can read, and it is the same string in all of them. That is the whole trick. The weather app and the game and the shopping app have no other way to know they are looking at the same person. They are separate companies with separate databases and no relationship. The identifier is the join. Switch off the tracking permission and that string stops being handed out. The apps keep working. Each one still keeps its own record of you. What they lose is the thing that lets those records be stitched into one. Reset the identifier while you are in there, which cuts loose whatever was already attached to the old one. On newer phones, the permission arrives as a prompt per app. And the answer people give without reading it is yes, because the prompt is standing between them and the thing they just installed. Worth going back and seeing what you agreed to. I see the other end of this from time to time. An operation running 100 devices for commercial data work has to get that identifier under control before anything else, because it is the field that gives the whole thing away in one query. That is a decent measure of how much weight it carries. I want to be honest about how much this buys, because the industry did move on. There are matching methods that do not need the identifier at all, and they are worse in the sense of harder to see and harder to refuse, but they are also messier and less accurate. The identifier is the clean version, and taking the clean version away costs a buyer real precision. 2. Location. Number 2 is location, and the fix is one word. Almost every app that asks for location asks for always. Almost none of them need it. Always means the app can ask where you are when it is not open. A delivery app that wants your address at checkout has no use for where you slept. Move everything to while using. 2 or 3 things will genuinely break, and you will find out inside a day. A navigation app running turn by turn with the screen off is the real case. A fitness tracker recording a run in your pocket is the other one. Everything else carries on working and stops drawing a line on a map. And location is the most identifying thing you produce, by a distance. 2 points are enough. Where a phone sits at night and where it sits during the day will name a person almost uniquely in a city this size, with no name attached to the record anywhere. 3. The microphone list. Number 3 is the one that is actually enjoyable to do, because it produces a reaction. Find the list that shows which apps hold the microphone and the one that shows the camera. Do not read it looking for spies. Read it looking for surprises. The useful question is why a torch app asked in the first place, and whether the thing that asked is something you still open. My list had 2 apps on it I had not opened in over a year, and 1 utility with no business near a microphone. I revoked all 3 and nothing complained. The risk here is duller than the version people imagine. It is that a permission you granted in 2022 is still granted to an app that has quietly changed owners since, and you have no idea who holds it now. Revoking costs nothing. If an app genuinely needs it, it asks again, and then you get to decide with the app open in front of you. which is a far better moment to decide than the day you installed it. 4. Inside the accounts. Number 4 moves off the phone entirely. Pick the 2 or 3 services you genuinely use every day. For most people, that is a search engine, a video site, and one social account. Inside each one there is a page about personalization, and separately a page about how long your activity gets kept. They are usually not next to each other, and the retention one is usually buried further down. Switch personalization off and set retention to the shortest option available, or automatic deletion after a few months where that is offered. Personalization off with retention untouched is the common half-finished state, and it is the less useful half. Personalization only governs what gets shown back to you. Retention decides how much of you is sitting there to be handed to somebody later, whether that is an advertiser, a legal request, or whoever ends up owning the company in 5 years. The reason to do the 2 or 3 you actually use, rather than everything you have ever signed up to, is that this is the boring one. It takes the longest per service, and it is where people quit. 2 accounts done properly beats a list of 11 you got a third of the way through. I will say what it costs, because it is not free. Recommendations get worse for a fortnight or so. A video site that no longer knows what you watched serves you rubbish for a while. Some people hate that enough to switch it back on, and that is a perfectly fair trade if you make it deliberately. 5. What has access to your email? Number 5 is the one nobody does, and honestly it belongs higher than 5th. I have left it here because it is the one people skip when it is at the top. Open the security section of your main email account and look at the list of things connected to it. Every app you ever signed into with that account. Every extension you granted access to. Every device still logged in, including the phone you sold. That account is the recovery route for everything else you own. The bank, the government service, the work login, all of them post a reset link there. And anything holding a live token on that mailbox is standing inside the room where those resets land. Mine had 11 entries. I recognized 4. One was a calendar tool from a job I left in 2021, still holding read access to the mailbox. Revoke everything you do not recognize and everything you have stopped using. 3 minutes, and it is the highest value 3 minutes anywhere in this list. While you are in there, 2 other things. If this account's password is one you also use elsewhere, that is what a password manager fixes, and I have covered it on its own. If there is no second factor, add one, and which kind you pick is its own subject too. Why there are no menu paths in this? I am deliberately not telling you settings, then privacy, then the 4th item down. Every set of instructions written that way is wrong within a year. The menus move, the wording changes, an item gets promoted to its own screen, and somebody follows a stale path, cannot find it, and quits. So look for the words instead. Tracking, location, app permissions, activity or history, connected apps or third-party access, depending on who wrote the screen. The search box at the top of the settings app finds all 5 faster than any written path I could give you. The honest part, this is the point where I am supposed to tell you to be thorough and do the rest. I am not going to. Those 5 are 10 minutes for most of the benefit that is available to you. The remaining 36 items on that checklist are real, and each one returns less than the one before it. And somewhere around item 20, you are spending an hour closing a gap that was never going to be how you got hurt. Somebody who does these 5 is in better shape than somebody who read 41 and did none. The second person is the common case, and the checklist is what produced them. The other reason to keep it at 5 is that you will have to do this again. A new phone, a new account, an update that quietly resets a default back to on. A 5-item routine survives being repeated every year or 2. A 41-item one gets attempted once, badly, and then never again. There is a version of the counter-argument I do not accept, which is that all of it is theater because you cannot get to 0. You cannot get to 0. That was never the standard. The standard is whether the cheap moves are worth making, and they are, precisely because they are cheap. The part I got wrong. For about 3 years I ran this as an annual purge. Sit down once a year, go through everything, revoke the lot, feel pleased, forget about it. I was thorough on the day. I assumed thorough on the day was the job. The flaw is that the grants which matter are the new ones. Every app I installed in the following 12 months asked for something at install time. And at install time the answer is yes. because you want the thing to work and the prompt is in the way. So the purge cleaned up a year of saying yes, and then I went and manufactured another year of saying yes. What fixed it was moving the decision to the moment of install. The prompt comes up, the answer is no or while using, and if the app truly needs more, it tells me by breaking. It almost never breaks. That turned the annual pass from an hour into about 10 minutes, because there was barely anything left in there to find. I also had the ordering wrong for longer than I would like to admit. I spent years on browser settings and cookie banners, which is where the visible privacy theater lives, while the connected apps list on my email account sat untouched, with a token from a job I had already left. One of those was a real hole. The other was me tidying. If you only do one, do the fifth, the email account. It is the least advertised item on any of these lists. It takes 3 minutes, and it is the only one where the failure mode is losing every account you own in an afternoon instead of seeing a better targeted advert. More privacy tools tested honestly at theprivacywire.com. Subscribe for privacy advice that is actually practical.